Hi, this video is entitled Online Safety Act Exposed, How Client-Side Scanning Could Break Your Privacy. And it's an examination of the legislation, the Online Safety Act, that could change digital rights, privacy protections and free expression in the United Kingdom and indeed beyond. Now I started thinking about the client-side scanning because the EU chat control has just been in the news. You might have heard about it. It's been pushed back because the Germans didn't like it really and they voted against it. So hopefully there's some common sense spreading across Europe. But client-side scanning is still an issue with the Online Safety Act. Now, it's in Clause 122 of the Online Safety Act, which you've probably heard about now is currently being talked about because it's introduced age verification for adult sites. So if you go to a naughty website, you should be asked to prove your age through something like biometrics or putting your credit card in or something like that. But client-side scanning is also included in Clause 122 of the Act, which is one of the most controversial provisions. Now, it was in the original Act in 2023, but it was in Clause 110, I believe, then. They've changed it and reworded it when it's been actually passed into legislation. And it's now in 122, and there's some relevant stuff in 121 as well, if you want to look it up. Basically, it gives the Act one of its most controversial provisions, the power to mandate client-side scanning of encrypted messages on users' own device. So that's you sitting there using WhatsApp or Facebook or Instagram or whatever you like to communicate with somebody encrypted and protected and safe from spying. They're allowed to bypass this to detect CSAM, child sexual abuse material. Okay, that's where it starts, but there's some issues with this. There's a technology gap here, obviously, and the UK government has openly acknowledged that the technology required to implement this scanning doesn't currently exist, except if you break end-to-end encryption. So you can't just look inside an encrypted connection, which is why VPNs are so valuable and, may I say, essential nowadays. Shameless plug, there's link in the description to the best value and best deal you can get on NordVPN if you want to bypass this stuff. But you can't spy on people's encrypted messages without breaking the encryption. And there's a mass surveillance fear that this clause 122, which says basically the government can do client-side scanning, so that's beyond, outside where the encryption layer is. So they put something on your device, your phone, your laptop, your PC, so it can read messages before they're encrypted, if you like. But these mass surveillance fears, privacy advocates basically saying this is a backdoor for mass surveillance. The government agency have got unprecedented access to private communications. And security experts are arguing that any mechanism to scan encrypted content inherently weakens the encryption for all users. So you put a little backdoor there on your smartphone or your laptop or your whatever the program on the client side, and yes, the government use it for their means, but somebody else will use it as well. They'll find it and discover it and intercept all your eBay purchases and credit card numbers. You know it's going to happen. So, client-side scanning, what are the dangers really? So, fundamental technical flaws. Any mandatory client-side scanning mechanism, whatever it is or however it's introduced, would put vulnerabilities and create a backdoor that can be exploited by the government, but also other malicious actors. Scope creep, beyond the initial intent. It's initially being frayed to protect our children and detect CSAM, but the technology developed for client-side scanning could easily be expanded to terrorism or criminal activities, and who knows where it would stop. It's a dangerous precedence where private communications will eventually be scanned for just about everything. I mean, it could be just political dissent or copyright material even is quite believable. I mean, there is some references in the Online Safety Act that things like using BBC iPlayer would will have to introduce age verification as well. But this is not the client-side scanning, obviously. So global precedent for authoritarian regimes, anything the UK government do will set a global template. It's always been the case. For some reason, the UK government is respected in this side, and it legitimizes this pervasive surveillance tools, the sort of thing that authoritarian governments would love to do. And if they can say, well, the UK does it, or the EU does it, it's going to empower authorities and states to demand similar backdoors from their tech companies. And it does undermine global efforts to protect people, protect human rights and digital freedoms. Impact on vulnerable populations. Well, people like journalists, human rights activists, whistleblowers, and dissidents need strong encryption. I mean, you might say they don't in the UK because they're not at risk, but I think many would argue with that. Client-side scanning places these groups at severe risk of just identification, which is a big risk, censorship and persecution. But ultimately, this is another step down the slippery slope to mass surveillance. It'll start as a targeted measure for child protection risks, and then it almost certainly will evolve into a pervasive system of digital monitoring, ending and eroding, rather, the right to privacy for everyone. I don't know how long it will take, but it's almost a path that once you're on, it's difficult to get off. Client-side scanning, so that's software or a mechanism to look at your device before it's encrypted to monitor what you're saying and doing, and have some little AI deciding if it's right or wrong, transforms personal devices into, they're not personal devices, communication devices anymore. They're monitoring tools. They're spying on you. They're laying the groundwork for a future where anything digital is under state scrutiny. I'll finish now. I just wanted to cover quickly as well the international legal clash, because the Act and the Bill are just go too far, really. There's an extra jurisdictional overreach here of the Online Safety Act, and because it actually specifies non-UK residents, saying that it can affect people outside the UK. How we can do that, I really don't know. I mean, the Americans have got something that actually goes the opposite direction and protects their rights. So I don't know how the UK law thinks it can prosecute people in different countries. I'm not sure. As I mentioned, the First Amendment collision, it's already sparked tensions with... I'm not a big fan of US President Vance, but the Vice President, but he has noted concerns about UK censorship attempts and how it conflicts with American rights too. And a reality check as well. Ofcom's power to level £18 million fines or 10% global revenue is huge practical hurdles. I mean, how can we enforce UK legislation and standards on global tech giants? I don't know. It sounds like the lawyers will do quite well out of this. The Act's ambition is to regulate global platforms from Westminster. I don't know if it's legally enforceable. It sounds damaging diplomatically and for our reputation, really. So I don't know how this will go on. Okay, that's enough for now. I will finish the video there, but thank you very much if you managed to stay to the end, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye for now.